Pet owners at Reddit, what was the most intelligent thing your pet has done? My roommate's dog. We were taking care of another dog for a few days and he was staying at our house. They got along well enough. But visitor dog kept trying to play and resident dog never wanted to. One evening, resident dog walks into the living room to find visitor dog is in her favorite spot on the couch. She immediately barks, drops into a play bow, and starts jumping around to play with him. Visitor dog gets super excited that she finally wants to play and abandons the couch. Resident dog drops the play acting and reclaims her rightful throne. My golden retriever leaves a shoe on the bed. Without fail. For my wife or I to find if we are both gone at the same time. My theory is that she did it once. And we came home. So now she does it every time we leave to ensure that we come back. Like a doggy superstition. After doing this for years, my wife had to leave the state for a week. My first day back from work, there was a shoe on the bed. Normal. After my second day back, wife is still gone. There were 3 shoes on the bed. After my third day returning from work alone, every shoe and boot in the house was laid out on the bed and couches. And all of my wife's dirty socks were in a bowl. It may not be the smartest thing she's ever done, but it really made me think about how she thinks. My cat knows that old grocery bags are what I scoop his crap into. So when I slip up and forget to clean his litter box, he drags one in there to let me know. I have a blood parrot. Smartest fish I've ever had. His tank contains half sand and half white pebbles. However, he's very particular with where and how the floor of his environment looks like. For example, he'll move plants towards certain places if he doesn't like how the ground looks beneath them. He'll place pebbles on the sand part and make a sand pile in the pebbles area. But it isn't random. If you remove a pebble from a little pile, he'll notice it and place another one. If you distort a little sand pile, he'll build more on top of the remains. He'll spend about 3 days carving out a small hole just to see his reflection at the bottom of the tank. If you lightly dusty the empty space with sand, he'll come swimming out of his house, collect the misplaced sand in his mouth and literally throw it at you against the aquarium glass. He's a very grumpy fish, but his personality is amazing. Our family's border collie would ring the doorbell when he wanted to come in. He was never trained to do it. My dad figures he had learned it from my childhood friends coming over to invite me out to play. One time my dog had a minor blockage and we took him to the emergency vet to see what we could do. The vet decided to give him some fluids to try to flush it out. Later that night he woke me up by punching me in the face and looked deeply into my eyes as if to say, this is going to be a photo finish. Let him outside and he let out the biggest poop I had ever witnessed him take. Thanks for not doing that in the house, buddy. My dog got out of yard one time when we weren't home. He went to my parents' house that's about a half a mile away and started scratching on the door for my dad. My youngest son, a 2-time cancer winner, was recovering from a particularly ugly round of methotrexate. He was home recovering and my Pomeranian, who was always at my heel, wouldn't leave his side. I was curious but not concerned and continued my morning chores. I was in the next room when Ping came in like Lassie and barked until I came to see. He returns to my son's side and began to shiver. My son was playing Xbox and seemed okay. I turned to go back to my chores and Ping let out a howl I didn't think he was capable of, and as I turned my son was seizing. Full grand mal seizures that I recall clearly 11 years later. I was just in time to keep him from hitting headfirst on the hardwood floors. We just put my little Ping down last month. He was my best friend for 17 years. And my son's hero forever. We miss you, Ping. Cat would not let me go to sleep and insisted I follow her to the kitchen. We had just gotten a new stove with a glass cooktop and didn't realize one of the burners was still on very low. Thanks, kitty. When my son was a baby, he was teething really bad. Constantly running a fever and cranky. We gave him lots of the Tylenol suspension drops. One morning I had the baby wedged in the recliner while I was looking for something. Of course he was crying. Our dog looked at the baby, ran upstairs, came back down a few seconds later with a Tylenol, dropped it in the recliner where it rolled to the baby. Then the dog turned to me and barked until I picked it up. My male Quaker parrot managed to get out of his cage one day and had free roam over the entire house. He stole every pen, pencil, and hair tie he could find and built a nest in the corner of his cage. When we tried to take it down, he guarded it with his life and screeched at us. We got him a few boxes of pencils the next day and let him remodel as much as he wanted. Honestly, he loved building it and fixing it up. It kept him busy and happy. I'm pretty bad at keeping track of my 3DS game cartridges. Lucky for me, my cat isn't. I once lost my copy of Pokémon X. Nearly destroyed my room trying to find it. A week later, I'm outside exercising and my cat walks up to me, drops the missing game cartridge at my feet and then just walks off like it's no big deal. Was in the middle of packing to move and one of us forgot to close the hamster cage. Hammy gets out and is running around. Cat notices Hammy and makes this loud strange meow that wakes us up and alerts us to the loose hamster. Pretty decent of that cat to not eat the hamster. My golden retriever has created a game. We call it Brody Ball. Basically, he gets a tennis ball between his paws while he's laying on the couch or bed, and slowly starts to nudge it towards the edge. Once it gets to a point where it's balancing, he tries to stay perfectly still until it starts to fall. Once it starts to fall, he either wins by snagging the ball before it falls to the ground, or he loses by failing to catch it and it falling off the couch bed. I think he just did this to counteract the boredom he had when he was a lonely pup. Edit. Dog's name is Brody, hence the Brody in Brody Ball. Our cat, a big Maine Coon, delivers the incoming mail from the letter slot in his teeth, or bats the larger pieces, to where I'm sitting. If a piece is too heavy, he looks at me and growls until I go to the letter slot to finish the delivery job he started. Our late Italian greyhound Ellen got baths every week due to the stench. His nickname was the Stink. One time, we were both sick with sinus infections and it had been about 2 weeks since Ellen had gotten his bath. We were sitting on the sofa watching TV as a family, and Ellen gets up off the couch and trots down the hall. This happened often, so we didn't move. We then heard his nails on a different surface than we'd ever heard previously. Perplexed, his dad and I went down the hall to find him standing in the bathtub staring at us like, "People, I can smell myself. It's time." Double quote. Edit. Here is our sweet boy. When I was a kid, we had 2 dogs, a Pyrenean Shepherd and a Labrador Retriever. The Retriever was a goofy idiot, but the Shepherd was smart. One day, the Retriever gets loose. We had to tie him up in the yard because he kept chasing things and running away, and the Shepherd runs after him. We never even realized what had happened until we saw the Shepherd coming back with the Retriever, holding the would-be runaway's leash in his mouth, and leading him back to the house. Must have been a weird sight for the neighbors. My cat gets really ashamed when he hacks up a hairball. He will sit there looking very sad until it's cleaned up. Well, one day I was at work when he threw one up, and since there was nobody in the house to clean it up for him, he tried to cover it up on his own. He found one of my dirty socks I kicked off the day before, unrolled it, and then neatly placed it over the hairball. I still ended up stepping in it though. This is adorable. My cat does something similar. He's a Maine Coon, so he keeps outgrowing his litter boxes. He started doing this thing where he would poop outside the box when he started to feel like it was getting too small for him, but would still try his little darnedest to cover it up with whatever he could find in the vicinity. Everything from socks, to envelopes, to important documents. The box he has now is the largest I could find available on the market, so I'm hoping this poop mansion will be the last box I buy for a while. So far so good, but he's still growing. My cat uses her claw to make her water bowl ring like a bell. I'm apparently the servant being called to refresh the water. I don't know about intelligent, but it was rude. I was sitting at the kitchen table using my laptop and singing. My cat came from across the house, hopped up on the table, and slapped me across the face. My cat hid under a comforter when my house caught on fire when I wasn't home. It saved his life because the layers of the comforter acted as an air filter and saved him from dying of smoke inhalation. I was trying to teach my husky paw and he wasn't getting it. After about 5 minutes of watching, my lab mix comes over and puts his paw in my hand to show his brother how it's done. One of my dogs would walk next to me without a leash, and no matter what he would never bark or leave. All I did was give him attention and take good care of him. He learned all this stuff by observing my behavior. When one of my dogs died, he would cry at night, and one day I laid on the floor and slept next to him. He started crying even more until one day he became silent again. Edit. Holy shit, guys. I never would have thought that me sharing this would result on my first over 100 upvotes. Also, get a shelter dog if you can. We used to have this dog when I was younger. She learned how to open our fridge and she would eat almost everything in it. It got so bad that my mom had to buy a child-proof lock for our fridge. She ran a daycare, so it was always funny when parents asked about it and she had to explain it was for our dog and not the daycare kids. A couple years ago, my grandmother, who doesn't walk very well anymore, fell while walking in the living room. They have a plot of land, so it's pretty big, and a couple of my family members live there. But at that time nobody was home. When our dog found out my grandmother fell, he ran all around to look for another person. When he didn't find anyone, he lay down and sat with her until she found the strength to stand up again. She told the whole family, and I think we were all a little more thankful he was there for her that day. I was ignoring my dog one day. To get my attention, she poked at my leg and managed to get me to look over, where I saw her holding a small part of my shoe in her mouth. I love my shoes. I guess she knows this and knew it would catch my attention. When I went to grab the shoe, she walked away with it until I followed her to the kitchen, where she dropped the shoe and begged for a treat. She got the treat. She lies. I'll feed her. And a half hour later, she'll go to my mom and beg her to feed her as well, trying to avoid me. She gets disappointed pretty quickly when we figure it out, lol. Edit. Forgot to specify. She's an American Eskimo dog. Smart little shits. My old pit bull just knew when I was suicidal and came for cuddles. Just would sit there whilst I cried into her fur and patiently wait it out, then lick me and stay longer. Rip girl. I miss you. My little cat has started coughing and looking at the floor after I let her catch the laser pointer dot with her mouth. She was trying to spit it back out to play with it more. My dog worked out where the sink was in a new house and went and sat by it to show me I'd forgotten to fill her bowl up. Not really impressive, but probably the most intuition she's ever shown. Bless her. My cat is a f***ing sadist. She has learned my work school schedule, and if I'm not getting up in the morning, she will step on the button of my CPAP machine, causing me to choke and wake up. If I have a panic attack, she meows until I pick her up and pet her, until I calm down. I have a German Shepherd that will let me know he's about to vomit and needs to be let out by nudging my legs, licking his lips, and then running to the back door. I'm so thankful he's learned to try to hold in his vomit so he won't do it in the house. My stepdad was a serious alcoholic, still is. However, before he met myself and my mother, he has this beautiful staffy. Multiple people confirmed that if he was in the bar and the dog was worried, it could get out of the house, onto a bus into the main strip. It would then go in every bar one by one looking for him. If he didn't find him, he would go back to one specific bar and sit on a chair and wait for him. I thought it was complete bullshit and a stupid story, but confirmed by quite a few. My rescue was found badly beaten and in some cold weather before he found a home with us. So it took him all of a month to figure out how to turn on and turn up the electric blanket. We have to make sure it's unplugged when we leave the house because he isn't smart enough to not get overheated and get sick. Unfortunately. I had a pet mouse that would fling himself onto his cage door when I would walk into my room. I would open it up and he would make his way on his little path from his cage to my desk, where he would try to eat of pencil erasers while I did homework and eventually crawl into my sleeve or the hood of my hoodie and take a nap. My corgi helps hold open inside doors for my 3-legged dog, named Wobbles, we adopted when he realized Wobbles couldn't follow him due to the doors shutting behind him. Not mine, but my brother's cat I was living with at the time. She had this tower she loved, but had outgrown. She never used it anymore since she couldn't sit comfortably on top. I had almost never seen her on the inside of it. We had discussed getting rid of it, but had not moved it, touched it, or even had more than one conversation about it. As soon as we talked about it she started sitting half in, this was all that could fit, the bottom portion of the tower and staring us down jealously. My dog used my laptop cable to scratch her ass with. Laptop cable was on the floor going to my laptop on the bed. My dog come along, sat down and did the scoot along the floor thing that dogs do, all whilst staring at me. I was absolutely disgusted but oddly impressed at the same time. My Samoyed knows he can use his nose to turn off my Xbox and get my attention. He always gets a drink of water before going on a walk. He also knows he can sneak more food off of a platter left too close to the edge of the table, if he slowly takes nibbles when nobody is watching, instead of knocking down the whole tray. I once had a dog that would look both ways before crossing the street. She was legitimately looking for oncoming traffic. One time she started to cross, but then saw a car coming. She backed off, and only crossed after the car passed. On the other hand, I once had a dog who would sunbath in the middle of the street, literally in the middle, as to block traffic in both directions. My chocolate lab woke me up one night barking in my face. I was really mad because he does that. When I got up to see what was up I soon realized I was having a massive heart attack. He saved my life. Thanks Luke. My dog is smart as hell. He's a service dog though. He can tell me 23 minutes before I have a sleep attack. He herds my kids when I tell him to. He can open the fridge, grab a drink. He can get the medicine I instruct him to, etc. Only bad side is that he's also smart enough to easily unlock his kennel door and such. I've returned more than once to have him greet me at the door. He waited until we were gone to get out. He's so used to being everywhere with me that I assume he took it upon himself to try and follow us, haha. I used to have a border collie German shepherd mix named Ash. We had a 6-foot chain link fence with about an acre-sized backyard for him to roam freely. One day, we couldn't find him and an hour later he was back in the yard. As his escapes happened more often, I decided to watch him from the window. He would stick his front paws in the fence, pull himself up so his lower legs went in the fence, then put his front paws on top of the fence and climb over it like a goddamn human. He could do it from the other side as well and never hurt himself doing it. I was so impressed I wasn't even mad at him when he continued doing it for the remainder of his life. He was the smartest animal I ever had. One time my dog had trouble chewing through a new bone, so she brought it to her water bowl and dropped it in and then went back to chew it a few minutes later when it was soft. Most intelligent thing I've ever seen an animal do. Edit. She is a shy, but lovable, rescue pit mix. Really an intelligent breed. I've been finding out. My border collie once managed to climb all the way to the top of the cupboard in my room without falling. Not exactly smart, but I still don't know how he did that. About a month ago my roommate's cat Waffles started acting crazy one night. Kept meowing and perched herself on the entertainment center and just wouldn't stop meowing. We checked her food, etc., and couldn't figure out why. About an hour goes by and she won't stop. Then I hear a very faint meow from afar. I finally realize that I can't find my cat Puffy. We search the whole house and I eventually find her locked in the garage. Waffles was trying to warn us and we had no idea. We never close the gate and she never leaves the yard. We didn't train her to do that. She just stays. even when people walk by. At the end of a peanut butter jar I give it to my Doberman to lick the inside out. But it's kinda hard for him to hold the jar still and also have the right angle. So one time he found a high top shoe of mine and set the jar in it so it would stand upright while he licked it clean. I was sure it was a weird coincidence, but since then he always goes looking for my work boots when I give him a peanut butter jar. He'll even set the boot upright if it's knocked over, then proceed to insert the jar. Not as impressive as some of the feats on this thread, but it blew my mind a little. Edit. Casper, my Dobie, says. And I quote, "Or shucks." My Amazon parrot. She's always doing smart stuff. One time I accidentally left the cage door open while I was giving her a bath outside. I was turned around cleaning the mat that goes on the bottom of the cage, and instead of escaping she says, "Poor bird." Door. I whip around and quickly close the door and she tells me thank you. Pretty girl. I swear she's very aware of her surroundings rather than just saying things randomly. My German Shepherd unlocked the door so I could get inside the house when I was locked out one time. She also helped me get ready in the morning and would drag my coat and purse near the door with my car keys because I could never find my car keys and she knew. She was smarter than me, IA. A friend of mine adopted an abandoned golden retriever. It was already an adult and it seemed to be house trained already. The first couple of days she didn't have a leash for the dog. So it basically just followed her everywhere, and whenever she went in a place that didn't allow dogs it waited for her to come out. Just sat there not walking away or anything. Don't really know if that fits what OP asked, but it struck me as quite smart. My male husky took a brand new bag of bagels off the kitchen counter and hid most of them to eat later. We were finding bagels around the house for a week. So far our female puppy has only managed to break out of her cage twice. My family lost one of our turtles. They like to climb out of the kiddie pool they stay in, and we knew one of our dogs loved hunting. We look at him and said, "Where's the turtle, buddy? Go find the turtle for us." And sure enough, this dog put his nose to the ground and went to work. He found the turtle in the far back of our yard in the bushes.